The stars had never looked so beautiful to Ambassador Jiho Park as they did from the observation deck of the Galactic Council Station. 50 years ago, humanity had been alone in the dark, believing they were the only intelligent life in the universe. Now they stood alongside hundreds of alien species, sharing knowledge and building a better galaxy together. Jiho straightened his formal robes as he prepared for the most important meeting of his career. Today, the Council would ask humanity to lead their greatest mission yet. His heart swelled with pride at how far his species had come. In the military sector of the station, Admiral Minho Kim was not feeling the same optimism. He stood before a holographic display showing Earth's defensive positions. His weathered face creased with worry. As commander of humanity's home fleet, he had spent decades preparing for threats that never came. The peace had been good for humanity, but it had also made them soft. "Admiral, the council meeting is about to begin," his aide informed him through the communication system. Minho nodded and made his way to the council chamber. Something about this emergency session felt different. The alien representatives seemed more tense than usual, their conversations hushed and secretive. The chamber fell silent as the council chairman, a tall being with crystalline skin, rose to address the gathering. "Fellow beings of the galaxy, we face our greatest threat since the formation of this council. The Void Swarm has emerged from the outer rim, consuming everything in their path." Holographic images filled the air above the assembly. Dark, writhing, masses of ships moved through space like a plague, leaving dead worlds behind them. The images were terrifying, but Minho noticed something odd. The tactical displays seemed incomplete, lacking the detailed sensor data that usually accompanied such briefings. "These creatures show no interest in communication or negotiation," the chairman continued. "They destroy everything they encounter. Our outer colonies have already fallen. If we do not act quickly, they will reach the core worlds within months." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. Representatives from hundreds of worlds spoke in worried whispers about evacuation plans and defensive strategies. However, the chairman raised his voice. "We have identified a solution. The Void Swarm appears vulnerable to coordinated military assault using advanced kinetic weapons and tactical innovation. The species best suited to lead this campaign is humanity." Jiho felt his heart skip a beat. This was it, the moment humanity would prove their worth to the galaxy. He stood from his seat, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "The human delegation is honored by this trust. We accept the responsibility to lead the defense of our shared galaxy." The chamber erupted in applause from most species, though Minho noticed several delegations remained strangely quiet. The Altarian representatives, in particular, seemed more pleased than relieved. After the session, Minho found himself walking alongside Dr. Sora Lee, humanity's chief scientist, toward the transport that would take them back to Earth. Sora was young for her position, brilliant beyond measure, and completely devoted to defending humanity's interests. "This is our chance to show what humans can really do," Sora said, her eyes bright with excitement. "I've been working on new weapon systems that could be perfect for this kind of threat." "What kind of weapons?" Minho asked. "Quantum disruption. Technology. It's still experimental, but the early tests are promising. The weapons could tear apart enemy ships at the molecular level." Minho stopped walking. "How far along is this research?" "We're maybe 6 months from a working prototype, but if the Council wants us to lead this campaign immediately, I'll have to put the project on hold. All our resources will need to go toward conventional weapons for the fleet." This troubled Minho more than he cared to admit. Rushing into battle without their best weapons seemed foolish, but the Council had made it clear that time was running short. Back on Earth, Captain Hyun Choi was preparing his squadron for deployment. At 35, he was one of the youngest ship commanders in the Earth Defense Force, but his tactical skills had earned him rapid promotion. His crews respected him because he never asked them to take risks he wouldn't take himself. "Sir, we've received our deployment orders," his communications officer reported. "We're to join the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet and depart for the Outer Rim in 72 hours. Hyun nodded, but something felt wrong about the whole situation. In all his years of service, he had never seen the military mobilize so quickly. Usually major campaigns took months of planning and preparation. This felt rushed, almost desperate. "Officer, patch me through to Admiral Minho," Hyun ordered. When the Admiral's face appeared on the screen, Hyun could see the same concerns he felt reflected in the older man's expression. "Captain Choi, what's your assessment of these deployment orders?" Minho asked without preamble. "Honestly, sir, it feels like we're being pushed out the door. The timeline doesn't make sense for a proper campaign. We're committing 80% of our military forces to fight an enemy we know almost nothing about." Minho was quiet for a long moment. "I've been thinking the same thing. But the Council's intelligence reports show the threat is real and immediate." "What does Counselor Nari think?" Hyun asked. Counselor Nari Yoon was humanity's top intelligence officer, known for her ability to see through political deception. "That's what worries me," Minho admitted. "She's been asking a lot of questions about the source of the Council's intelligence on this void swarm. Questions that aren't being answered." 3 days later, humanity's greatest military force in history departed Earth. Hundreds of ships carrying humanity's best soldiers, pilots, and officers headed toward the outer rim of the galaxy. The departure was celebrated across human space as the moment their species would prove themselves worthy partners in the galactic community. Counselor Nari Yoon watched the fleet depart from her office in Earth's intelligence headquarters. Unlike everyone else, she was not celebrating. Her investigation into the void swarm had raised more questions than answers. The supposed enemy attacks followed patterns that seemed almost too convenient. The timing of the threat coincided perfectly, with humanity reaching peak military strength. Most troubling of all, several of her intelligence contacts in other species had gone silent in recent weeks. These were beings she had worked with for years, individuals who had never failed to provide information before. Nari activated her secure communication system and began sending coded messages to her most trusted agents throughout the galaxy. If her suspicions were correct, humanity was walking into the greatest trap in galactic history. As the last of the human ships disappeared into hyperspace, she made a decision that would later save her species. She activated Protocol 7, humanity's most classified contingency plan. If Earth came under attack while the fleet was away, the planet's hidden defenses would buy time for evacuation. She only hoped it would be enough. The first sign of betrayal came at 0300 hours, Galactic Standard Time, when Captain Hyun Choi noticed the Allied ships changing formation without warning. His tactical display showed Altarian battlecruisers moving to surround the human fleet. Elements, their weapons powering up in what should have been friendly space. "Communications! Try to raise Admiral Minho," Hyun ordered, but his communications officer shook her head. "Sir, all long-range communications are being jammed. We can only talk to ships within our immediate area." Hyun's blood ran cold. In 12 years of military service, he had never seen Allied forces jam their own communications during a joint operation. This was not protocol. This was preparation for an attack. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Minho Kim was reaching the same terrible conclusion. The alien ships that were supposed to be fighting alongside humanity were now positioning themselves like predators surrounding prey. The void swarm threat they had traveled so far to fight was nowhere to be seen. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Altarian Battle Lord Kethrix," his communications officer reported. The holographic image of an imposing alien warrior appeared before Minho. Kethrix's reptilian features were twisted in what might have been satisfaction. "Human Admiral, your species has served its purpose. You will surrender your ships immediately or be destroyed." "What are you talking about?" Minho demanded. "We're allies. We came here to fight the void swarm together." Kethrix made a sound that might have been laughter. "There is no void swarm, fool. Those images were created by our best artists. Your species has grown too powerful, too dangerous. The Council decided you needed to be removed from the galaxy before you became a threat to the natural order." Transmission cut off, and immediately the space around the human fleet erupted in weapons fire. Altarian ships opened up with everything they had, their plasma cannons tearing through the hulls of human vessels that had no reason to raise shields. Among allies, Minho watched in horror as 3 of his destroyers disappeared in balls of superheated gas. "All ships, raise shields and return fire! This is not a drill!" But the humans were outnumbered 3-1, and they had been caught completely off guard. Ship after ship fell to the coordinated attack as alien species that had called themselves friends revealed their true nature. Meanwhile, 8,000 light-years away, Earth was waking up to its own nightmare. Dr. Sora Lee was working late in her underground laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean when the first orbital bombardment began. The facility shook as massive explosions detonated on the surface above her. "Dr. Lee, we're receiving emergency broadcasts from the defense grid," her assistant called out. "Unknown ships are attacking major population centers across the planet." Sora ran to the communications center and activated the main screen. The images that appeared made her stomach drop. Hundreds of alien warships filled Earth's sky, their weapons reducing humanity's greatest cities to burning ruins. The Nexus corporate fleet's distinctive silver ships were working alongside ethereal communion vessels, and others she recognized from the Galactic Council. "How many ships?" she asked. "Early estimates suggest over 2,000 vessels. They hit every major defense installation simultaneously." General Taman O, commander of Earth's orbital defense platforms, was fighting a battle he knew he could not win. His defensive grid had been designed to handle raids or small invasion forces, not a coordinated assault by multiple alien fleets. "Sir, Platform 7 is gone," one of his officers reported. "Platform 12 is losing structural integrity." Taman watched his tactical display as one by one, humanity's orbital defenses were systematically destroyed. The enemy had clearly studied Earth's defensive systems for years, knowing exactly where to strike for maximum effect. "How long can we hold?" he asked his tactical officer. "At this rate, maybe 6 hours. They're concentrating their fire on our power generators and communication arrays." Taman nodded grimly and activated the planet-wide emergency broadcast system. "All citizens, this is General O. Earth is under attack by hostile alien forces. Proceed immediately to designated emergency shelters. This is not a test." Deep beneath the surface, Director Unbi Nam was already implementing humanity's last resort protocol. The Underground Cities Project had been a secret program designed for exactly this scenario. Miles beneath major population centers, massive, shelters had been constructed to protect millions of people from orbital bombardment. "How many civilians have we evacuated?" she asked her coordination team. "Approximately 40 million so far, with more arriving every minute. The transport systems are working at maximum capacity." Yunbi knew it would not be enough. Earth's population was 12 billion people. Even if the underground cities worked perfectly, billions would die before this day was over. On the surface, the bombardment continued for 6 hours. When Earth's last orbital platform finally fell silent, the alien fleets began landing ground forces. The planet that had been humanity's home for thousands of years was now under enemy occupation. Back in the Outer Rim, Admiral Minho was fighting for the survival of his scattered fleet. Of the 40,000 ships that had left Earth, fewer than 8,000 remained operational. The others had been destroyed or disabled in the coordinated attack. Commander Jaewon Bae, captain of the dreadnought Soul's Pride, found himself in command of a group of damaged human ships trying to escape the trap. Enemy vessels pursued them, relentlessly, determined not to let any humans escape to warn Earth. "Sir, our engines are failing," his chief engineer reported. "We can't maintain this speed much longer." Jaewon looked at his tactical display. Behind them, 36 human ships limped through space, many carrying wounded crew members and refugees from destroyed vessels. Ahead of them, an Altarian battle group was moving to cut off their escape route. He made the decision that would be remembered in human history. "All ships, this is Commander Bae. Take the civilian vessels and continue to the rendezvous point." "I'll buy you time." "Sir, that's suicide," his executive officer protested. "No," Jaewon replied calmly. "It's duty." Soul's Pride turned toward the enemy formation, its weapons charging for one final battle. The massive ship fought alone against overwhelming odds, its guns blazing defiance as smaller human vessels escaped into hyperspace behind it. When the dreadnought finally exploded, it took 2 enemy cruisers with it. The sacrifice allowed over 30 human ships to escape what should have been total annihilation. Captain Hyun Choi was among those who escaped. As his damaged ship limped toward the secret rendezvous point Admiral Minho had transmitted before the communications went down, he tried to process what had happened. In a single day, humanity had gone from proud members of the galactic community to hunted refugees. "Captain, we're receiving a signal from Admiral Minho," his communications officer reported. Minho's face appeared on the screen, older and harder than it had been that morning. All surviving vessels proceed to coordinates. I'm transmitting now. We're regrouping at the old Titan shipyards. If Earth has fallen, we need to prepare for a long war. Hyun felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. The aliens had made a mistake. They had tried to exterminate humanity, but they had failed to finish the job. The survivors would remember this betrayal. They would make sure the galaxy never forgot what happened when you broke faith with the human race. The age of cooperation was over. The age of revenge was about to begin. 6 months after the betrayal, Admiral Min-ho Kim stood on the bridge of the factory ship New Seoul, watching his broken species slowly rebuild itself into something harder and more dangerous than before. The massive vessel had become humanity's new capital, a mobile city housing nearly 2 million survivors who had escaped the slaughter. The Titan shipyards where they had taken refuge were ancient structures built by a forgotten species and abandoned for centuries. The alien attackers had not bothered to search these remote facilities, assuming no humans could have escaped their perfect trap. They were wrong. "Admiral, Dr. Lee is requesting permission to come aboard," his communications officer reported. Min-ho nodded. For months, there had been no word from Earth. Most assumed the planet was completely destroyed or under total enemy control. Then, 3 days ago, a small ship had appeared at the edge of the system carrying impossible cargo, survivors from Earth's deep laboratories. Dr. Sora Lee looked different when she entered the conference room. Her clothes were torn and dirty, her face marked with exhaustion, but her eyes burned with a fury that Min-ho had never seen before. Behind her walked a man Min-ho did not recognize, carrying a sealed container. "Admiral, I want to introduce Engineer Dong-hyuk Song," Sora said. "He was working in Laboratory 7 when the attack began. What he managed to save will change everything." Dong-hyuk carefully opened the container, revealing what looked like pieces of metal and crystal unlike anything Min-ho had seen before. "Sir, when the enemy bombardment hit Earth, it cracked open some very old ruins deep underground. We found technology from a species that existed long before any current galactic civilization." "How old?" Min-ho asked. "Maybe 1,000,000 years. These artifacts show evidence of technology far beyond what any council species possess. Quantum manipulation, matter reconstruction, energy sources we can barely understand." Sora leaned forward, her voice intense. "Admiral, I've spent 6 months studying these artifacts alongside our most advanced weapons research. The results are beyond anything we imagined possible. We can build ships that phase through normal matter. Weapons that don't just destroy targets but completely unmake them at the atomic level." Min-ho felt something stir in his chest that he had not experienced since the betrayal. Hope. Not hope for survival, but hope for revenge. "How long will you need?" "Give me 3 years and access to these shipyards," Sora replied. "I'll give you a fleet that can make the galaxy tremble." Within weeks, the Titan shipyards became a center of frantic activity. Human survivors worked around the clock, their grief and rage transformed into focused determination. Every person understood their purpose. They would build the weapons, needed to make their enemies pay for what they had done. Captain Hyun Choi, now promoted to Commodore, found himself overseeing the construction of humanity's new ship designs. The vessels taking shape in the massive construction bays looked nothing like traditional human ships. They were sleek, dangerous, and incorporated technology that bent the rules of physics. "Commodore, the first Reaper-class dreadnought is ready for initial testing," Engineer Dong-hyuk reported during their morning briefing. Hyun walked with him to the observation deck overlooking Construction Bay 7. The ship below them was enormous, easily twice the size of anything humanity had built before. Its hull was covered in crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. "The quantum disruption cannons are mounted along the main hull," Dong-hyuk explained. "Each one can tear apart enemy ships at the molecular level. The energy output is beyond anything the Council species have ever seen." "What about the Ghost-class ships?" Hyun asked. "Even more revolutionary. They can shift partially out of normal space, making them immune to conventional weapons and able to appear inside enemy formations without warning." Hyun smiled grimly. The aliens had tried to destroy humanity through treachery and overwhelming force. They would learn that humans could be just as treacherous and far more creative when it came to violence. Across the shipyards, specialist Borum Shin was training the new generation of human warriors. These were not the peacekeeping soldiers who had served in the old Earth Defense Force. These were something new, fighters shaped by loss and hardened by the desire for vengeance. "Remember, we are not fighting to defend anymore," she told a group of pilots preparing for their first missions in the new ships. "We are fighting to punish. Every enemy ship you destroy, every alien world you help conquer, brings justice for the billions who died on Earth." The pilots nodded, their faces showing the same cold determination that had become common among all human survivors. They had learned that mercy was a luxury their species could no longer afford. Intelligence Chief Kangmin Yu was building something equally important in the shadows. His network of spies and informants was spreading throughout the galaxy, identifying every species that had participated in the betrayal and mapping their defenses. "Sir, we've confirmed that 17 different species took part in the coordinated attack," his chief analyst reported during their weekly briefing. "The Altarians led the military assault, but the Nexus corporate fleet provided logistics, and the Ethereal Communion used their psychic abilities to jam our communications." "What? About species that stayed neutral?" Kangmin asked. 12 major species refused to participate. They're currently being pressured by the Council to join the occupation of human space. Kangmin made notes on his datapad. When humanity struck back, they would need to distinguish between enemies and potential allies. The galaxy would learn that humans could show mercy to those who deserved it, but had no forgiveness for betrayers. Dr. Sora Lee worked 20 hours a day in her new laboratory, pushing the boundaries of what was possible with the ancient artifacts. The alien technology seemed to respond to human creativity in ways its original builders had never intended. "Dr. Lee, the phase shift generators are showing unprecedented efficiency," her assistant reported. "We're achieving displacement rates 60% higher than theoretical maximums." Sora nodded, making adjustments to the quantum field calibrators. The ancient builders had created this technology for exploration and scientific research. Humans were transforming it into the most devastating weapons the galaxy had ever seen. "Begin construction of the Titan-class carriers," she ordered. "I want factory ships that can build fleets while moving through space. When we begin our campaign, we need to be able to replace losses faster than the enemy can inflict them." Admiral Minho spent his days coordinating the massive effort, but his nights were devoted to strategic planning. In his private quarters, aboard New Sol, he studied star maps and battle scenarios, designing the campaign that would reshape the galaxy. The plan was elegant in its brutality. Humanity would not simply defeat their enemies, they would make an example that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Every species that had raised weapons against humanity would face consequences proportional to their crimes. The Altarians, who had led the betrayal, would see their homeworld reduced to ashes. The Nexus corporate fleet would watch their vast commercial empire collapse. The Ethereal Communion would learn that their psychic powers were useless against weapons that could unmake their thoughts along with their bodies. But beyond revenge, Minho was planning something larger. The old Galactic Council had proven itself corrupt and treacherous. When humanity finished punishing their enemies, they would build something better. A new order based on human principles of honor and strength. 3 years after the betrayal, the first human war fleet prepared to emerge. From hiding, Admiral Minho stood before his assembled commanders, looking at faces hardened by loss and shaped by purpose. "Today, we begin the campaign that will write the final chapter of this war," he announced. "The galaxy betrayed us when we offered friendship. Now they will learn what we offer to enemies." The fleet that departed the Titan shipyards was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 50,000 ships of revolutionary design, carrying weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics, crewed by survivors who had transformed their grief into an unbreakable will to victory. The age of human mercy was over. The age of human dominance was about to begin. The first the galaxy knew of humanity's return was when 12 council worlds woke up to find human war fleets in orbit above them. There had been no advance warning, no sensor readings, no time to prepare defenses. One moment, the space around these worlds was empty. The next, it was filled with ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Minho Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dreadnought Vengeance of Earth, watching the Altarian homeworld spin slowly beneath him. 3 years ago, he had been a defender trying to protect human space from threats. Now he was the architect of galactic conquest, commanding a force that could remake entire star systems. "Admiral, all strike groups report ready," his tactical officer announced. "We have confirmed target locks on every major population center and military installation." Minho nodded, his face showing no emotion. Below them, the world that had orchestrated humanity's betrayal went about its daily business, unaware that judgment had finally arrived. "Open a communication channel to the planetary government." The holographic image of Battle Lord Kethrix appeared before him, the same alien warrior who had revealed the Council's treachery 3 years earlier. The Altarian's reptilian features showed shock and disbelief at seeing humans in his home system. "This is impossible," Kethrix snarled. "Your species was eliminated. Your homeworld burns under our occupation." "Your information is outdated," Minho replied calmly. "Surrender your military forces and prepare for occupation. You have 10 minutes to comply." Kethrix's laugh was harsh and mocking. "You arrive with a few dozen ships and demand our surrender? We have over 3,000 vessels protecting this system." "I know," Minho said. "It won't be enough." The Altarian fleet moved to engage the human ships, confident that their numerical advantage would quickly end this impossible return. They had fought humans before and won decisively. They expected the same easy victory. They were wrong. Dr. Sora Lee's quantum disruption cannons revealed themselves when the first human dreadnought fired. Instead of the plasma bolts or energy beams the Altarians expected, a wave of distorted space struck their leading battle cruiser. The massive alien ship simply came apart, its molecular bonds unraveling as the weapon tore through the fundamental forces holding it together. "What kind of weapon is that?" Kethrix demanded over the communication channel, his confidence beginning to crack. Minho watched as more human ships opened fire, each shot completely destroying an enemy vessel in ways that defied understanding. The kind you get when you betray a species that trusts you. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out as humanity's war fleets struck simultaneously at their enemies. Commodore Hyun Choi led the assault on the Nexus corporate headquarters, his Ghost-class ships demonstrating their most terrifying capability. "All Ghost ships, initiate phase shift," Hyun commanded from his flagship. The sleek human vessels seemed to flicker and fade, becoming translucent as they shifted partially out of normal space. Enemy sensors lost track of them completely, unable to detect or target ships that existed between dimensions. The Nexus corporate fleet opened fire on empty space where the human ships had been, their weapons passing harmlessly through the phased vessels. Then the Ghost ships rematerialized inside the enemy formation, their weapons already charged and ready. "Fire at will," Hyun ordered. The result was slaughter. Caught in the middle of their own formation with no room to maneuver, the corporate ships were destroyed before they could react. Their advanced shields and armor meant nothing against weapons that could ignore conventional defenses. Commander Siwoo Park watched from the bridge of his Ghost-class destroyer as enemy ships exploded around them. "Sir, the enemy fleet is breaking formation and attempting to retreat." "Let them," Hyun replied. "We want survivors to spread the word. The galaxy needs to know that humanity has returned." The psychological impact of humanity's weapons was as devastating as their physical effects. For 3 years, the Council species had believed humans were extinct or scattered. Now they faced technology that made their own weapons seem primitive, wielded by a species that had supposedly been eliminated. Propaganda director Yuna Jong made sure every world in the galaxy received recordings of the battles. Her message was simple and clear. Those who had betrayed humanity would face total destruction, while those who had remained neutral might still find mercy. "Citizens of the galaxy," her broadcast began, "humanity has not forgotten. We have not forgiven. Those who raised weapons against us when we offered friendship will now learn what we offer to enemies." The recording showed Altarian ships being torn apart by quantum weapons, Nexus corporate fleets fleeing in panic, and human ships appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The message was unmistakable. Humanity had evolved beyond anything the Galaxy understood. Captain Sunho Kang found himself in the unusual position of accepting surrenders from entire enemy fleets. His task force had cornered a combined council force in the Kepler system, and their commanders were begging for mercy. "Human commander, we surrender our vessels and crew to your authority," the enemy fleet admiral transmitted. "Please, our ships, carry civilian refugees from worlds you have already conquered." Sunho studied the tactical display. The enemy fleet outnumbered his own ships 5-1, but their weapons were useless against human technology. They knew it, and they were terrified. "Admiral, you participated in the attack on human colonies 3 years ago," Sunho replied. "Your clemency will depend on your cooperation now." It was a pattern repeating across the galaxy. Council forces that had seemed invincible during their attack on humanity now found themselves outmatched and desperate. Some fought to the death, others surrendered immediately. All of them learned the same lesson. Humans had returned as something far more dangerous than they had been before. The climactic battle came when Admiral Minho brought the full strength of humanity's war fleet to the Council's capital system. The massive space station that had served as the galaxy's seat of government for centuries was defended by the combined remnants of every species that had participated in the betrayal. "Sir, enemy fleet strength is approximately 40,000 vessels," his tactical officer reported. "They're arranged in a defensive sphere around the council station." Minho looked at the display showing the enemy formation. It was impressive. The largest military force the galaxy had ever assembled in one place. 3 years ago, such numbers would have been overwhelming. "Fleet Admiral Ryu, begin the final assault," he commanded. Fleet Admiral Jisoo Ryu acknowledged. The order from her position aboard the super dreadnought New Humanity. Around her, 50,000 human ships moved into attack formation, their quantum weapons charging for the battle that would decide the galaxy's future. The space around the council station erupted in the largest battle in galactic history. Millions of weapons fired simultaneously, turning the void between the stars into a storm of energy and destruction. But the outcome was never in doubt. Human quantum disruption cannons tore through enemy formations like paper. Ghost ships appeared inside, defensive lines striking at vital targets before vanishing again. The ancient technology humanity had discovered and improved proved superior to anything the Council species possessed. The battle lasted 72 hours, not because the outcome was uncertain, but because of the sheer scale of the destruction. When it finally ended, the Council station lay in ruins, and the combined fleets of humanity's enemies had been completely destroyed. Admiral Minho stood in the wreckage of the station's command center, looking out at the debris field that had once been the galaxy's most powerful military force. Around him, human marines secured the facility and processed the few surviving enemy commanders. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from over 200 worlds," his communications officer reported. "They're requesting mercy in exchange for complete submission." Minho nodded slowly. The war was effectively over. Humanity had proven beyond any doubt that they had evolved beyond their enemy's ability to resist. Now came the harder task, deciding what to do with their victory. The galaxy had betrayed humanity when they offered friendship and trust. Now that same galaxy cowered before the species they had tried to exterminate. The question was no longer whether humans could win, but what kind of victors they would choose to be.